Alrighty guys, today's a pretty big day. I'm going to be redoing my headlights completely with some new Bavgruppe version 3 rings. Kind of going for that OEM Plus look with these things, but not only am I doing that, but I'm going to replace the lenses with some fresh new lenses from BMW. They are based out of Amsterdam, I believe, so some fresh lenses for these headlights. I'm not sure if you guys have this problem as well, but my lenses have actually cracked, like stress fractures over time, maybe from the heat. All over here, and also some over here. Looks pretty nasty. It's kind of taken away from the look of this car. At the back, we got this beautiful rear end with the, at least I think it's beautiful, with the LCI taillights and Amtech bumper. All that looks pretty current. But the front really just takes away from the car, I think, with these nasty headlights. I got the M3 rep bumper on here, which I really like. Some people don't, but I'm a fan of it. I like it, how it looks. But these headlights got to change for sure. So I'm going to do it today. I'll walk you through every step of the way. But first off, I've got to jack the car up and basically get this bumper off. I don't think you need to jack the car up to do this, but I think it'll be easier if we do. So yeah, let's get to it. So from remove the bumper, you want to take off these 4 T20 screws up here. I already taken them off. Pretty easy, just 4 right there. And then next up, below the car, I already have my under tray off because I was just bleeding my power steering fluid, but take those screws out at least, and then these screws on the very ends too. It kind of depends how many screws you have in there, depending on what bumper you have, so keep that in mind. But pretty much everything on the bottom, this front lip, on the bumper should be removed. Go ahead and loosen all the screws on the front fender lining of both sides. It may be easier if the wheel's off for this, just because, you know, out of the way, you can kind of take the entire fender liner out, but I don't think it's necessary. I've done it before, so I would just leave the wheels as they are and just take out the fender lining. But lifting the car is definitely a must for this, as there are a couple screws you need to take out from over here. So your 8mm is going to be your friend here. Pretty much all the screws taken out so far are all 8mm, even this fender liner. I took all of them out except this one, like 10mm cap there. I just didn't feel the need to take it off. But once you take it off, it kind of exposes. Kind of hard to see. See if we can get a good angle of it. See on the left side there are 2 8mm bolts there. Those both connect to the bumper, so you need to take both of those off. I'll let the bumper kind of come off. So just those 2 on each side, and that's pretty much it. The bumper should slide right off. Bumper's off and more of the headlights exposed. I'm going to first take off these 2 T27s at the very top. These screws are actually T30s, but moving on, there's a T30 over here to remove. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. And also there's one more T30 up here. I'm gonna take a picture and put it there so you guys can see it now. And last, if there are 2 T30 screws right here, these 2 guys right there. At this point, it's all to hold the light in place. So once those come out, the entire light should just kind of come out in your hands. Be sure to drop it, obviously, and take all the connections out appropriately. Don't like force them out. You don't want to break anything. All right, so light's successfully out now. But there's this massive plastic strap you want to take off. There's just one more T30 down here, right there. Take that one out. This entire strap should just come right out. Alright, so now I finally got the headlights out of the car on the table right here, a little mini setup for this project. I'm going to be preparing them now for actually putting them in the oven and taking the lens off. Pretty much all we have to do is take off every single screw we see and anything that can come out of the headlight housing itself. Like turn signals, these screws over here. I believe this is the ballast on the bottom, so we just need to take all of those things out before it goes in the oven. We don't want to damage anything, but we probably wouldn't even if they were there anyways, but just to be safe, you know, these are pretty expensive. Don't want to damage them. So first I'm going to take out the turn signal, just going to twist it out. I had previously upgraded these to LED turn signals. It's kind of, they're really good. Let's see. There we go. As you can see, yours may look a little bit different. Mine's LED, like I said. No errors or anything like that, but this will complement the lights I have now really well with the Bavgruppe V3 rings, which are actually switchbacks, so they'll all be amber when the turn signals come on. So pretty cool, but let's put that aside for now. Now I'm going to use a T20 to take all these little screws off at the back. Loosen that back cover where it actually can come off now, like so. Taking off the screws for the ballast. After undoing these two connections, this thing will just come right off. I want to keep this in a safe place. After undoing these screws, this guy comes out. Be careful, it's a circuit board. Looks like this over here. That aside. Now come back over to this side of the headlight where the turn signal was. This little vent hose, we need to pull that off. Like so. There is a T15 screw hiding right there. Gotta take that one out. The light is almost ready to be put in the oven, but I would definitely suggest taking the actual xenon bulb out, as these are very expensive. Now I think people have put them in the oven in the past without an issue, but just gotta loosen these two tabs. The entire light pretty much just comes out. Really don't want to touch this thing at all. Loosen this connection, and I would just put this aside very, very carefully. These are pretty expensive. It's like $200 for an OEM BMW part. $70 if you want to get the Osram branded one. I believe it's the same part on it, anyways. Be very careful with this. Put it to the side. But just don't want to put that in the oven, really. So that's basically it. I'm going to go to the oven now to show you how to do that. So this is what your oven should look like. We got one tray at the bottom with a piece of wood kind of in the middle there. We're going to rest the headlight on there. Before you preheat the oven, you definitely want to test out how the light fits. I've already done it. It looks pretty good in there. So then we're going to preheat it to 220 degrees, and then I'll be back when it's ready to go. Putting your lights in the oven may seem pretty daunting at first, and trust me, it is, but I've done it once before with my ML headlights, which I blacked out the insides of. So it's really not that big of a deal. Just make sure your headlights are not touching any of the metal pieces in the oven, as you don't want it to melt, really. Caution is really advised here. Slow and steady wins the race. You're better off at a lower temperature for a longer period of time than a shorter period of time with a much higher temperature. So definitely keep that in mind. Yeah, make sure all of your precious components are out of your headlights. And yeah. About after 10 to 11 minutes of being in the oven, and with convection on, of course, I took the lenses apart. You pretty much just push. This is pretty old steel. It's like 10 years old, right? So it came apart pretty easily. Nothing really difficult about that. It takes a little bit of pressure to kind of start it, and then once you get it started, it just kind of does itself. You got to be careful this butyl seal doesn't like fall in everywhere. It can be really messy, so you definitely want to be wearing gloves. I was wearing some mechanics gloves over there. They were doing the job just fine. Once you have the two lenses apart, or the two parts apart, you have this one connection for that little LED. Just be sure to undo that. Just don't break it, obviously. I'll be back in the garage in a second. Alrighty guys, so right now I'm in the process of taking apart the passenger side taillight. I've already kind of done a lot of the work for the driver's side. Let's already take it apart. I've already painted the pieces. Waiting for the paint to cure on those pieces. I'm going to put it back together. But now I'm going to take apart the housing on the lens itself. So we just take this black plastic piece out. I'm going to paint it semi-gloss black to match the other parts, and also trim it a little bit. And also take out the circuit board for this little orange amber little light in the corner. So a bunch of T20 screws here, and one T15 down here, or T10 I believe down here actually. So first take out the turn signal housing. Pretty straightforward. There's like I said, there's a T10 down here. Take out the T20 down here as well, and a T20 up here as well on a heatsink. So let's take those all out first. Also, if you're going to use this lens again, make sure you have it kind of wrapped up and not touching a plastic surface like I am right now. I don't care about this lens because I'm using new lenses, and these are pretty much pretty messed up. If you look at the corner over here, it's all cracked. It's just not going to be used by anyone anymore, so there's really no point protecting it. Alright, so all the screws are undone. One thing I noticed that for some reason my tab for this black housing just came right off without me even touching it. Kind of broke off. So we'll see what we can do about that, but no big deal. There's still two other tabs that attach that black housing to the lens. So first we can take the lens out. Like so. Looks like this. We will need to trim a little bit on the right here for the outer lens, and quite a bit actually on the inside for the inner lens. People have said the round rings you don't really have to trim at all, and they'll kind of squeeze around, but I noticed the plastic kind of will bend, and I feel like a long time that's going to crack. So I feel like some trimming will not really do any harm, so I'm going to be doing that. You can't really see it from the outside anyway, so should be good to go. Yeah, this is out, and now this can come out. Circuit board can come out first. Like so. This lens can actually clip off of the housing. Like that. We're going to paint this, or at least I'm going to paint this part black inside, just kind of give more of a stealth look. With the switchback LEDs, you know, I'm not really worried about the reflectiveness of this material over here, so it's all going to be black, and the heatsink can come off with the LED right there. So I'm going to put that aside carefully. This will be painted, so I'm going to leave this out for. This has to stay clean. I'll leave this over here. Alright, now this lens, you can pretty much throw it away now if you want to, if you have new ones. Yeah, this one's seen better days for sure. It's pretty fogged up, even after polishing it. A lot of stone chips and stuff, so it was time for new lenses. But got new ones anyways. I did use my other old lens to kind of test fit some stuff, so I may keep this aside just for now, but it's good to have for a little bit at least. Now I'm gonna get the actual headlight housing. Alright, so here's the actual housing itself. I'm gonna take this chrome piece off, and take these old rings out. We're not gonna use them anymore, but this one we're gonna paint over it because it's actually a part of the structure for this housing itself. So I'll have to take it all apart. Not really a major process. It's just lots of T20s everywhere. There's a slight difference in the inner housing. Some T20s have more of a round head, and some more of a flatter head, but they're all T20s. But there's really two types of screws in this entire headlight. I've noticed there's a longer T20 with that kind of flatter head, and then the rounder head T20. So just keep track of where those go. I'm sure it won't really matter in the long run, but they're a little bit different in length. So keep that in mind. For now, I'm just gonna undo whatever I see. Actually, for this part, the inner housing, there are actually two sets of T20s almost the entire way around. The ones behind you don't need to undo because that's part of the rear housing, and you won't really see that at all, so you don't need to paint that chrome. It's just really the outer one you take out, and yeah, we'll get going. One thing, don't forget, there's actually a T20 up here for the ground of this light over here, so take that out and we can loosen this entire piece, but don't forget. Alright, so just like that, this is out as well. We do want to take out this inner lens here. We don't want to paint that, obviously, so we'll take this kind of assembly apart. It's just a few plastic tabs here and there. Nothing major, really. Just take it apart, pop the lens out, and put it back together so we can paint it. Get the bulb out of here too. There's no need to paint that, so it's just a couple of wires. This one wire we need to push in, out. Unload the clip. Bulb can come out. Carefully. Put the wire through here first. There we go. Alright, put this one aside. This is a good time to change your bulbs out if you'd like to. The xenon bulb is pretty expensive, but probably worth doing if your car is pretty old. I wish I kind of thought about that before, but I didn't, so I'm stuck with the ones I have currently in the car, which have been there since I got the car. Yeah, lenses, actual lenses for the lights, the entire thing, lenses for the projectors, any bulbs you want to replace that are hard to get to, the xenons, the ballasts, anything you really want to do light related, it's a good time to do it. So think about that before you take this on. It's a pretty big project. Alright, still good. Put it aside. Alright, so now I've got myself some 320 grit sandpaper over here, some 1000 grit over here. Just going to quickly go down all these parts with the sandpaper, kind of get the chrome finish off for the most part and get it kind of scuffed up, ready for spray paint. So I've already sanded down the pieces a good amount, not too much, just kind of get a good rough surface going. For this, it's not really that important to get it super sanded down, as it's going to be covered by this anyways. So you really won't be able to see the quality of the paint. So not really a huge deal, but if you want to, go ahead. But for the sake of time, I will not be doing that, even though it is pretty good already. But before we paint, I gotta kind of wipe all the stuff down, put some rubbing alcohol. I got some over there, 91%. Shouldn't really matter what percentage you got, just go ahead, rub it down, and paint it up. First coat should be pretty light, just barely, kind of shouldn't even be fully covering it. So pretty light coat for the first one. For the other pieces so far, I've already done maybe 5-6 coats. Kind of wait in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes in between each coat. And now I'm going to wait a total of about 6 hours till I'm fully cured before I can kind of put them in the housing again. So I'll be doing that this evening. These won't be ready until later, obviously, because I haven't painted them yet. But you know, pretty straightforward. If you ever spray painted before, won't be a problem. If you have not spray painted before, then you probably shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Alright guys, so you haven't noticed, I've been doing the driver's side light a little bit ahead of the passenger side, so I kind of know what I'm doing. So after hours of kind of working at it, just kind of perfecting this piece, I've really gotten a good idea of what the housing should look like for trimming. I have to paint it obviously, but I kind of made a cut right here so the ring will clear. This portion, you really can't tell it's cut when it's behind the lens. Cut a little bit down here, and I cut a little bit over here as well. You really can't notice once it's in the light itself. Have not done this side yet, but it'll basically just be a mirror image of that. So I've drawn some silver lines on the housing of the passenger side light of where to make the cuts. I took pictures of this. I'm going to put it in the description if you guys want to take a look at those, if you need to use them. Those are the cuts I've made. I have stuck on one ring. I'll go into some more detail on the passenger light, but so far on the driver's light, I've got this ring pretty firmly in there. For the switchback, I've gotten the wire over here to test out which was the actual power wire for the turn signal. I kind of assumed it was the white one because the brown is usually ground, and it was when I plugged it in the car, so I'm going to have to wire that in somehow. I'm probably just going to strip some wire right here and then attach it right there and put some little glue over it. That's how that'll work. This is taped on here with 3M double-sided trim tape. This will not move, which is great. The bigger lens, I think we're gonna have it sit on top, and it just will sandwich in between the two, in between the lens and the housing. So we're not gonna tape that one on, yeah, it's looking good. We're making some good progress now. You know, finally that I got this sorted out, it'll go much faster, I think. I'm just going to cut that to size appropriately, and then paint these two things up, and then we should be good to go to put the lamps back together. The trick now will be not to scratch the paint. You know, while I was testing some stuff, I actually did scratch the paint of this housing over here, which I repainted now. It's fine. Need a lot of patience for this job, but it's going to look really, really good when it's done, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm already excited. I plugged this one in, like I said, and it's so bright. Such a big upgrade over the stock one. So looking forward to it. I'll be back when I'm making some more progress on the passenger side light. Alright guys, so I got my headlight here, my passenger side one. I've put back the low or high beam assembly actually, and looking pretty good. I'll paint it up. Now I'm going to go ahead and install my actual Bavgruppe module right here. So these two can actually plug into the angel eyes themselves, and then this guy plugs to the plug that usually would go to the H8 bulb for the OEM angel eyes, and this guy will go into the white turn signal wire, this yellow wire over here. The turn signal wire, if you look at where the turn signal socket is, the white wire is the wire you want to connect this to. So all I did on the other side is just kind of strip some material off and kind of tied it around the end connection of the turn signal wire, and put some liquid tape, this stuff, on top of it. This is pretty cool actually. I'll show you on the other side when I'm done. yeah, we're going to put this in here. Basically just goes in the back, and then you can wire these two guys to the front, and then we'll attach this, and then we'll get one in July secured on the high beam assembly. Right now you're looking at the bracket for the turn signal bulb. Here we have the wire from the Bavgruppe module. I've already stripped a bit off, and I have exposed this wire over here from the actual turn signal module. Basically, I'm just going to tie this guy around here. When I say tie, I just mean wrap it around, like so. As long as the metal is touching, it'll work. Alright. Now I'm going to seat this back into how it was before and put some liquid tape over it. Alright, so here the connection is back in place. I'm going to get some liquid tape now. Just with the Q-tip, that's all I need. I'm just going to put it on this area. Might not be the prettiest, but it's effective. And the easiest, in my opinion. So before I go any further on the actual housing, I'm going to get the new lens all set up, put the turn signal housing in the new lens, and also put the black housing we modified earlier in the new lens. So I'm going to get that out and get it ready to go. The new lens here, one thing I want to mention is that you definitely want to be wearing gloves when you do this. Any fingerprints will show up, especially on the inside, and on the inside you just want to touch it all, because anything you get in there you don't want to rub out, because it'll scratch no matter what you do. It's very sensitive material, so be sure to wear gloves. Just be very careful when you handle this material. The new lenses, you already paid over $100 of these, and you don't want to mess them up. So first off, we're going to put the new repainted turn signal housing in first. So basically the same thing as how we took it out. I'm just going to put it in the corner. Again, very careful not to scratch the lens itself. It is quite difficult. Just be careful. You'll be fine. So I'm going to get that in place, and then I'll be back with the housing itself. You just had to put the 1T10 in for the circuit board, and I got to put the actual housing in. It's definitely more of a delicate thing. You don't want to hit the lens at all, so just be careful when you do it. But it should be 3 T20s. I only have 2 because the one broke off over here, but it should be no big deal. Alright, so I was actually test fitting these lights a couple hours ago, actually last night, and I was tired. I shouldn't have been doing this at that time. And I'd actually wired this backwards. I plugged in the Angel Eye connector backwards. So as a result, it popped my capacitor right here. It made a big explosion. It was kind of scary, actually. But luckily nothing caught on fire. It was all good. But yeah, just be aware that you can pull back the covering here, and it actually will show which is positive, which is negative. On the car, the yellow is positive, the brown is negative. So be sure to do that, and don't do what I did, because I guess I just need it all covered up. I didn't really pay attention to it. Plugged it in. It was working for a couple seconds, but the capacitor is not meant to do it in that direction. So capacitor blew, but not a big deal. Bought a new capacitor on Amazon for like $8. It'll be here like probably this week. It's Christmas today, so probably in a few days. Luckily, I can access the harness from this access door. So it won't be a huge deal. I can still put the lights back in the car. Just it won't have this side working for the Angel Eyes, at least, until I get that part. But yeah, a little mistake. But we all make mistakes. Luckily, this wasn't a major one. Could have been worse for sure. So to prepare this housing for the new lens, what we have to do is get this put a new butyl seal in the groove over here. Now, if you didn't take the old one out already, I recommend just kind of heating it up with a heat gun or a hair dryer of some sort, and just using an old screwdriver, an old pen is what I used actually, and really just scrape it out. Now you don't need to replace it, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's 10 years old. You may as well replace it while you're here. The steel itself is not very expensive. I have it actually right here. I'll show you guys. It's on Amazon. I can't remember correctly how expensive it was. I know it wasn't exactly cheap, but you need this exact stuff. So this is pretty much your only option. And it's good for quite a few headlights. I already used these on my ML63 when I made the housings black. I could figure out how to open it. Yeah, so there's quite a bit in here. This is already, after using 3 headlights, 2 ML headlights and 1 of the BMW headlights, which is over there. It's already done. But yeah, so there's quite a lot left. I barely used it any much. If you look at, this is kind of where it started, and this is where it is now. So, it is expensive, but you don't have to buy it once really if you're doing it casually. I only have 4 cars here, so I can probably only possibly do it a certain amount of times. This will probably last me forever. So you basically want to pull it out, and the reason it lasts so long is you pull it out and you have to stretch it out a little bit. It's pretty thick. You don't need it that thick at all because it kind of expands when you melt it down in the oven. So you can pull it out, you kind of stretch it out a little bit to make it a little bit smaller than the groove itself. You don't want to squeeze in there. It should fit in pretty easily, and then you're pretty much all good to go. And put it in the oven and get the thing baked up. But we're not quite there yet. I'm just going to do it before I get the last angel eye in, and then yeah, it should be good to go. Before the next part, before we kind of get the last angel eye in there, kind of loosely in place, and before we put the lens on, I'm just going to rub some stuff off with some rubbing alcohol, and that stuff really is your best friend in this project. It really cleans it up pretty well with no residue, especially if you have microfiber cloth. You need that actually. So, small little specks here and there that'll all come off with the cloth and some rubbing alcohol. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I'll be back to put the last angel eye on. With the last angel eye in place, it's time to put the lens back on. So basically, you just want to be carefully kind of place it on the housing in the correct areas. Make sure to plug this little guy back in. Don't forget about that. That can be annoying to open up your headlights and put that plug back in. So try not to scratch anything. And this lens is not glued in because it doesn't need to be. It'll stay in place once the lens is on there. So just make sure it's where you want it to be when the lens is back on. So kind of just keep an eye on it. I might have to make some small adjustments as you go. But yeah, that's basically it. And then after this, we're going to put the headlight back in the oven, same temperature, 220, except only for 9 minutes this time, or 8-9 minutes. And you basically just got to push it back together, make sure the tabs go over the original spots, and that'll be basically it. So let it cool down, put the headlight back together, and then project's going to be done. Lined up beautifully, so I'm going to put it in the oven now at 220 degrees for about 7-8 minutes. And I'm going to push it back together, and then yeah, that'll be it. Just gotta put the headlights back in the car. Pretty much the reverse order of what we did to take them out. So I'll be back to you when the car's pretty much together, pretty much.